I'm actually interested to know your opinion on where those income streams for artists are now in 2019, with kind of streaming being so low. Where kind of is the money?
I think it's still in performance, although like there's less space to perform in now, so that's becoming a difficult thing for artists to get into and start earning like a fair amount of money. So I think with streaming, it's not really getting any better, apart from the fact that there's more people using it, and I think more people are paying for it now, which is great. I think the good thing about streaming is there's no overheads. You know, you don't have to keep pressing CDs or keep an eye on the stock or like keep going to the post office, or it eradicates all of that. So if you can build up a decent following and then you can build your catalogue, you can be quite sustainable, I think. Spoke about an artist on my label earlier who had this artwork. His name's Clacy Jones, and he finds himself consistently down about how he's doing. But in my opinion, he's doing really well. I think he puts a lot of pressure into like landing in a Spotify playlist or something like that, and I think a lot of artists do as well. They feel like they've failed until they've got into New Music Friday or a specialist's playlist, like a curated playlist. And he hasn't really found himself in those, but he does have nearly 50,000 monthly listeners, and a lot of them come from his own like playlist on his artist platform. He puts a release up, and you know it's doing like 1,000 streams a day, like without even. He's not very hot on social media, but the people who are into his music are really into it, and he's just got to keep that going. I think if you just keep that going, keep the quality high, you know, keep the people who are like committed to listening to you happy, and make sure you've just got a nice constant stream of good music coming out, and the quality is always where it should be. You know, he's gonna keep the fans that he's got, and he's just gonna like keep building more like people. He's in so many like user generated playlists, like some of them get him thousands of streams as well. There's some big ones. So I think a lot of artists are putting way too much pressure on being in like a curated playlist. Like I've found myself in a few recently, and I can compare them with him to his best performing track, which is in no playlists. I've got a track in Spotify's Metropolis playlist at the moment, which has 600,000 followers, and he gets more streams on his best performing track than I do from that playlist. So it's not the be all and end all of like success on Spotify. I think it's just about, you know, being patient and sticking to your guns. Bandcamp is a godsend. I think like I can't big up Bandcamp enough. The label makes more from Bandcamp per month than it does from Spotify, because we push a lot of our listeners to Bandcamp, and we communicate that if you really want to support the label and the artists, paying there is better, because the money lands instantly in the bank within seconds of them paying for the release, and then they can stream it on the Bandcamp app as much as they want after that. But DJs use Bandcamp, and obviously the music that I put out is electronic music. DJs need files, you know. They're not listening. They might listen to it on Spotify because they're at work in the week, but they need it to play it out, so they need to get it from Bandcamp. Bandcamp, the nice thing about buying from Bandcamp is knowing that you're putting that money straight into the label. They don't have to wait 3 months for the accounts to come through. You know, the money's straight in their PayPal by the end of the day. Bandcamp takes about roughly 10% of their sale. So I think that's I think for artists as well, yeah, I definitely recommend being on Bandcamp as well as being on all these streaming platforms. It's one that distributors don't deal with, so you have to do Bandcamp yourself. But if you can get, I listened to a great audiobook called 1,000 Fans. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but a really interesting stat was if you can get 1,000 people to pay £10 for an album, that is this equivalent of the same 1,000 people listening to your album on repeat 5 times a day, every day, for an entire year. So if you can just get 1,000 people to buy it, it's way more powerful than getting probably even 20,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, because most of your monthly listeners might only listen to that album once or twice in a month. Listening to it 5 times a day, every day for a year is not happening, even with like, you'd have to almost leave it on all day constantly and never listen to anything else for a year. So just paying an artist £10 for a download on Bandcamp is still the best way you can support artists that you enjoy. But from an artist perspective, I think like entering on that sales, on the sort of sales model is really good, because I find like if I can keep costs down from a label perspective as well, if I can sell maybe 40 to 50 copies of that EP on Bandcamp, it puts it in profit straight away. So then anything they make from streaming is all profit after that. So we upload everything to SoundCloud. We still put everything on all of the free platforms, because I find that the free platforms are all about being discovered. But your core fans, your real fans, if they really want to support you, they'll buy it. They'll buy anything that you put on Bandcamp. You can sell merch on there. You can message your fans as well. It's got some really good tools in the artist app where you can actually like filter your followers or your customers by how much they've spent. So you can reward anyone who spent the most in a year or something like that. Like you can private message them. It goes to their email. So you can literally message your top fans, your top supporters. And this goes back to engagement. This is the kind of like real engagement that's gonna like have a lasting impact on said listener. If they got an email from their favorite artist that said, "You've spent so much money like supporting me. Thank you. Here's guest list for my show," because you can see their location as well. Like I'm playing here. So that's another thing that it's good for as well, is having access to like that data, but also access to the listeners, which you don't really get with any other of the streaming platforms. And I feel like this is maybe where streaming platforms are missing the mark a little bit, and maybe alienating themselves from artists feeling like they're supported, really, is that you have all these enormous followings. You can't actually reach them until you release again. And then there's no message. You can't sell the story of the album, or here's like some behind the scenes, or here's that. No streaming platforms are really like giving artists that kind of like two-way. I feel like that was one thing we missed a bit with MySpace, was that artists had that opportunity to do that. Now they have it, but it's scattered across multiple platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, streaming platforms, Bandcamp, blogs, website, whatever. There's so many places that you have to like spread it everywhere, but it's not. It would be great if there was like a one hub that everyone could kind of, if you want to pay for it, you can pay for it. If you want to stream it, you can stream it. If the artist wants to upload a blog or a picture, that'd be great. But we're just missing that a little bit. So yeah, I think that's like maybe where we're at with streaming, is just it's almost there in the sense that it's great for listeners, but it's maybe not quite good enough for artists just yet. But yeah, just building the catalogue and recognising that the fans out there that listen to you are like important as well.